Lockdown in my city started in March of 2020. At first, it almost felt surreal. Streets that were normally packed with traffic suddenly looked abandoned. Stores closed early. Restaurants shut down. People stayed inside. For the most part, everyone followed the rules. My college had switched to online classes, and since my parents both worked long hours at the hospital, I was home alone most days. We lived in a quiet suburban neighborhood just outside a major city. Normally the street was pretty calm, but during lockdown it became eerily silent. No kids playing outside. No cars driving by. Just stillness. At first I didn't mind it. I actually enjoyed the quiet. I could focus on classes and play video games without interruptions. But after a few weeks, that silence started to feel different. Heavier. One night around midnight, I was in the living room watching YouTube when I heard something outside. It sounded like footsteps. Not loud footsteps. Just slow, deliberate movement on the sidewalk. I muted the TV and listened. The sound stopped. I waited for about 30 seconds before shrugging it off. People were still allowed to walk their dogs or exercise outside, even during lockdown. I turned the TV volume back up. About 5 minutes later, I heard the footsteps again. This time they stopped right outside the house. Something about that instantly made me uncomfortable. I slowly stood up and walked toward the front window. Our living room lights were on, so I knew anyone outside would be able to see me clearly. But I couldn't see them. The street light in front of the house barely illuminated the sidewalk. All I could see was empty pavement. I told myself I was being paranoid and went back to the couch. The next day, nothing happened. Or the day after that. But a few nights later, it happened again. Same time. Around midnight. Footsteps. Slow. Unhurried. Stopping directly in front of our house. This time I didn't go to the window. I just sat there listening. After about a minute, the footsteps continued down the street. The whole thing left me uneasy, but I convinced myself it was just someone taking late-night walks. That explanation worked for a while. Until one night I actually saw him. It was around 12:30 a.m. I had gone into the kitchen to grab water when I noticed something through the front window. A person standing across the street. Perfectly still. They were facing our house. I froze. At first I thought maybe it was a neighbor walking their dog or checking their phone. The longer I watched, the stranger it felt. The person wasn't moving. Not even shifting their weight. They were just standing there. Watching the house. The streetlight made it hard to see their face, but I could clearly see their silhouette. Tall. Thin. Hands in pockets. I stood there for almost a full minute before I finally stepped closer to the window. The moment I did, the figure turned and walked away down the street. I didn't see them again that night. The next night, they came back. This time they were closer. Instead of standing across the street, they were standing on the sidewalk directly in front of our house. Same posture. Same stillness. Just staring. My stomach dropped. I grabbed my phone and texted my parents, but they were both working late shifts. So I decided to turn on the porch light. The moment the light clicked on, the figure turned and walked away again. No running. No panic. Just a slow, casual walk down the empty street. At that point I decided to check our doorbell camera. I pulled up the footage on my phone and scrolled back through the recordings. And what I saw made my blood run cold. The man had been there before. Not just once. Not twice. But almost every night for the past week. Sometimes he stood across the street. Sometimes closer. Always facing our house. Always around midnight. I I stared at the footage for a long time trying to figure out what he was doing. There was no clear answer. He wasn't trying to break in. He wasn't approaching the door. He was just watching. That night I locked every door and window in the house. I barely slept. Next evening I told my parents everything. My dad reviewed the footage himself and agreed it was strange. He said if the guy came back again, we would call the police. Unfortunately, we didn't have to wait long. 2 nights later, around midnight, our doorbell camera sent a motion alert. I opened the app immediately. The man wasn't across the street. He wasn't on the sidewalk. He was standing on our front porch, looking directly into the camera. My heart started pounding. He leaned closer to the doorbell camera, studying it for a few seconds. Then he slowly reached out and covered the lens with his hand. The screen went black. That's when I heard something. A soft sound. Right outside the front door. Doorknob being tested. I ran upstairs and called the police. The officers arrived within about 10 minutes. By the time they got there, the man was gone. They checked the neighborhood and didn't find anyone matching the description. But one of the officers told us something that stuck with me. He said several homes nearby had reported a suspicious man walking around late at night during lockdown. No one had managed to get a clear look at his face. No one knew where he was coming from. After that night, we never saw him again. Sometimes I still think about those quiet nights during lockdown, when the streets were empty, and someone stood outside our house, watching. Story 2.
The Basement Mystery.
Someone was inside our house during lockdown. During the first few months of lockdown, my family decided to move temporarily into my grandparents' old house. It was located in a rural part of the state, far away from the city. My parents figured it would be safer to isolate there until things calmed down. The house itself was large and old, but it had been maintained pretty well. It sat on several acres of land surrounded by woods. The nearest neighbor was about a quarter-mile away. At first, it felt peaceful, almost relaxing. But after a few weeks, strange things started happening. It began with small things. Cabinet doors being open in the morning. Lights turned on that we were sure we had turned off. At first we blamed each other. My mom thought I was leaving lights on. I thought my dad was opening cabinets late at night. But eventually we realized something didn't add up. One afternoon I noticed the back door was unlocked. I clearly remembered locking it the night before. I mentioned it to my dad. He said maybe I forgot. But I knew I hadn't. That same night, around 2 a.m., I woke up to a strange noise. It sounded like footsteps downstairs. At first I assumed my dad had gotten up for water. Then I remembered something. My parents' bedroom was on the same floor as mine. The footsteps sounded like they were coming from the kitchen, which was downstairs. I stayed perfectly still in bed, listening. The footsteps moved slowly across the floor, then stopped. A few seconds later I heard something else. Drawer sliding open. My heart started racing. I grabbed my phone and texted my dad. "Are you downstairs?" A minute passed before he replied. "No." Why? That message sent a chill through my entire body. Because it meant exactly what I was afraid of. Someone else was in the house. I quietly got out of bed and locked my bedroom door. My dad called the police while I stayed upstairs with my mom. The officers arrived about 20 minutes later. They searched the entire house. Every room, every closet, the basement, the attic. They didn't find anyone. But one officer noticed something strange. The basement window had been forced open. Just slightly. Not enough to notice right away, but enough for someone to slip through. We assumed whoever had been inside ran when they heard the police arriving. That was terrifying enough. What we discovered the next day was worse. While checking the basement storage room, my dad noticed something behind a stack of boxes. There was a small space between the wall and the furnace. Inside that space were several items that didn't belong to us. A sleeping bag, empty food wrappers, a flashlight, and a backpack. Someone had been living in our basement, watching us, listening, waiting until night to move around the house. Police believed the person had probably been staying there for several days, maybe longer. The idea that someone had been secretly living inside the house with us during lockdown still makes my skin crawl. Because when everything shut down, when everyone stayed inside, when the roads were empty, we thought we were completely alone out there. But we weren't.